Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Carly Sherman, and I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Untangle. And today, I will be talking with our VP of Product, Heather Panay, about some of the common myths and misconceptions surrounding SD-WAN technology. Some housekeeping items before we begin. If you would like to submit any questions for Heather, please do so in the Questions tab. If you would like more information about Untangle or our Untangle SD-WAN router, we will have those links available at the end of the webinar. And a little about Heather today. She joined Untangle with over 15 years of experience within software and developing and networking. And she has been an integral part of our leadership team and led the development of our latest SD-WAN router product. So why are we talking about SD-WAN today? SD-WAN has been a trending technology lately. As SD-WAN continues to change the way IT departments approach networking, a lot of SMBs believe that this technology is still meant for large-scale, complex enterprise systems. Today, Heather and I will dive deep into some of the myths and realities of SD-WAN for SMBs and how Untangle SD-WAN router can enable you to benefit from using SD-WAN in your network. Every year, Untangle conducts a survey with all of our channel partners, and from these findings of this survey, we publish our Voice of the Channel report. But it also informs us about topics and solutions that are important to the SMB market as a whole. In our most recent survey, we saw a number of comments about barriers clients face when considering adding new technologies to their network. These sentiments include that new technology creates new security issues, that staff is not educated or is unclear about protecting a non-traditional network perimeter, and that price and poor reliability of internet service providers continues to be an issue for SMBs. So understanding that SD-WAN can fall into the category of new technology that may turn some people away and that many people associate SD-WAN with large and complex deployments, we thought it would be helpful to break down some of the most common misconceptions about SD-WAN technology and deployment, as well as help inform and dispel some myths and questions that we hear when talking with administrators and IT partners about SD-WAN. So thank you, Heather, for joining us today and helping to dispel some common SD-WAN myths. To start, Heather, I thought we could set the stage with a common definition of what SD-WAN is and why it's beneficial for networks. Will you please provide us just a brief definition of SD-WAN?
Yeah, sure, Carly. So, well, SD-WAN, it's a way of setting up a global network across offices and into the cloud without worrying about the specific hardware that's being used to get network traffic from one point to another. It's a technology that can carry data from one place to another, no matter what the underlying infrastructure is beneath it. As he said, it's essentially a software overlay. So a software-defined network is sending data where it needs to go in the most optimized fashion, accounting for network conditions that can change from one moment to the next.
Great. So now that we have a definition under our belts, let's move forward into our myths. So Heather, will you please address the first myth today, which is SD-WAN replaces the need for MPLS, or Multiprotocol Label Switching?
Yeah, I think this was probably one of the first things that came up when SD-WAN came about. So MPLS is certainly, it's expensive, yet it's at the top of the list when an absolutely critical network needs reliability and speed. As businesses use more bandwidth-intensive applications such as video conferencing and cloud applications, it's very easy today to reach the limits of what the existing internet infrastructure can support. From using business broadband, you could upgrade to a dedicated internet connection that will guarantee a certain performance and speed, and from there you could go to an MPLS connection that's the most expensive but absolutely guarantees even more. SD-WAN has been talked about as an alternative, but the idea really is that if only each business could use the existing internet connection they have to the absolute maximum capacity and optimize it so they're being used in the best possible manner, then it's often found that there's no need to upgrade to a better class of internet, whether that means upgrading to a dedicated connection or upgrading to an MPLS connection. So MPLS certainly has its place, and often enterprise deployments it can be used alongside other types of internet access. But for a smaller business, first deploying a solution like SD-WAN can optimize the existing internet and straight grading the infrastructure.
Great. So moving on to our next myth for you, Heather, is SD-WAN duplicates the WAN optimization functionality of my current next-generation firewall.
So generally, Carly, you'll be using a small device at each branch or remote office that will provide network connectivity and bring the branch office onto the software-defined network. A next generation can do WAN optimization for sure, but generally firewalls tend to have basic WAN failover and basic WAN balancing with simpler algorithms. An SD-WAN router as the entry point into a branch office, it generally has a lot more advanced routing capabilities. With an SD-WAN solution, as data flows through the network, WAN links are constantly probed for performance. So being able to know what's going on with packet loss, jitter, and available bandwidth. And as the performance changes, the SD-WAN solution will adapt and can flip from one physical or virtual WAN link to another, so that performance characteristics are always appropriate, or at least the very best for the types of applications flowing through them.
Great. So following on the security aspect of SD-WAN, Heather, the next myth to talk about is SD-WAN leaves the network open to vulnerabilities.
So SD-WAN has been an evolving technology for quite a while now. There were essentially two sets of vendors who provided it as it became a more wider known technology. There are vendors that have solutions such as a next generation firewall that have added SD-WAN capabilities into their functionality stack. And then there are vendors that came at it brand new, going for the dedicated edge device to enter the market. So the dedicated edge device was usually stronger on the advanced routing capabilities because that's what they started with, and the network optimization. Those that started with an existing solution, such as a next generation firewall, tended to be stronger on the security aspects of it. But things have moved on quite a bit now, and security is more and more built right into the SD-WAN router edge components themselves. So, however, a great way to get a good SD-WAN solution that is secure and provides all the network connectivity and routing benefits is to deploy something like a next-generation firewall within the software-defined network, so that all the multi-layered security aspects available within that next-generation firewall are available to the whole software-defined network as they work together.
Okay, great. So as we move through these myths, Heather, some members of our audience may be wondering if they really could benefit from SD-WAN technology. So do SMBs really need a complex SD-WAN solution?
Well, it's certainly true that the perceived complexity has stopped some smaller businesses until now from taking a closer look. But it's actually not really very complex once you do take a closer look at it. Whilst enterprises were certainly the first to start using SD-WAN technologies, it didn't take long at all to realize that the problems that were solved with SD-WAN applied to smaller businesses as well. So if we take an example of a small business like a marketing agency that has a couple of offices in different locations, let's say they have a total of 50 employees, one office there is a headquarters and there's a couple of branch offices. That marketing agency, just like a larger business, uses a lot of bandwidth-intensive applications such as video conferencing and cloud applications such as Office 365 or Google for email. These applications can send a lot of data around, which uses up more and more data and internet bandwidth and put a strain on the network infrastructure of any kind of office. SD-WAN technology can provide connectivity from the branch offices to the headquarters office and also optimize internet connectivity at those branch offices too. So for our marketing agency, SD-WAN technology can also prioritize different business tools in a different manner. So for example, editing software can be treated differently than video conferencing, and certain applications can be prioritized or sent over faster internet connections using SD-WAN. So SD-WAN essentially optimizes the existing internet over the existing infrastructure so that it feels faster without having to pay for an expensive infrastructure upgrade. And that's something that smaller businesses will certainly appreciate too.
And that is the perfect lead-in, which is always what's top of mind is budget constraints for small and medium-sized businesses. So let's talk money. SD-WAN is too expensive to implement with an SMB budget.
Yeah, and I would say, once we dispel the complexity, it's really not as complex as you thought. Well, that leads into, it's also really not as expensive as maybe initially thought as well. There are some very expensive SD-WAN solutions out there, that's certainly true. But now that we've dispelled that complexity, let's dispel the budget concern in the same context. There are appliances that help set up an SD-WAN network that can cost thousands of dollars. And there are services out there that route all your data through their cloud data center with many redundant virtual paths. And handling of all that can be really expensive. But if you look at what an SMB really needs, they need network connectivity, they need a way to connect their offices up together, and they need a way to get the significant benefits of optimizing and ensuring fail-safing of all their networks. All of this you can get with a small, lightweight, dedicated SD-WAN router that can bring the branch office onto the network, and these don't have to cost very much at all.
So that's perfect, Heather. This is a simple network diagram that includes SD-WAN, and can you walk us through how that would work with the marketing agency as an example?
Yeah, so this shows what a typical SD-WAN deployment can look like for a small business split over a couple of geographical locations. So let's continue with that example of our marketing with their head office, which is depicted there in green, and one remote office or branch office, which is shown there in blue. SD-WAN is what's connecting those two offices together. So a virtual private network goes from the branch office to the head office. There could be just one virtual private network, or there could be multiple ones, where one would take over in the case of failover or for load balancing. At the branch office, it's an SD-WAN router that is the small edge device that brings the office onto the corporate network and also gives it a fast, optimized local network. At the headquarters, regarding the SD-WAN network, what's happening is that in this scenario, the NG firewall is the other side of the virtual private network as part of the virtual network overlay. By sending all network traffic over that network overlay, the branch office can use all the same security, all the same filtering, and all the same productivity policies as the main head office. The SD-WAN router, it does a lot more than just hook the branch office up to the rest of the network, though. Often internet connectivity is not quite as good in the remote locations as it would be in a headquarters office, which tends to be located more in a big city environment. The SD-WAN router provides advanced routing capabilities which make the internet feel a lot faster at the remote site, and it makes the most important applications perform better. And all of this is managed from one cloud-based management system, which is in this diagram, Untangle Command Center, which brings everything together from the headquarters to the remote site as well.
Sorry about that. I got a little ahead of myself. I got excited. From this network diagram, we can see that even a small network can gain a lot of benefit from SD-WAN technology. So can you tell us a little bit more about Untangle's SD-WAN router and how it can enable these benefits?
Yeah, so Carly, when deploying an SD-WAN solution, one of the fundamental key components is the SD-WAN router, which is the lightweight edge device that will be deployed in the remote or the branch office. The SD-WAN router is essentially the device that provides network connectivity back to the corporate network and provides the branch office connectivity. In order to ensure business continuity, the SD-WAN router can route network traffic over multiple types of connections, one or more WAN links with a broadband connection, or it can use an LTE network. And it has failover algorithms that quickly detect if any internet link goes down and automatically fail over to another connection or another type of connection if needed. With the internet becoming more and more encrypted, as traffic passes through the network, often all that can be seen today about that traffic is an IP address and a port number. Older routing technologies can't get much visibility into exactly what's passing through the internet, but Untangle has some proprietary technology, which is our predictive routing technology. This actually has a patent pending on it. And this is what enables us to figure out what applications are traveling across the internet, such as Skype or Zoom meetings or Office 365, etc., even with only the bare minimum of information. Intelligent path selection contributes to making specific business applications perform much better. So when real-time matters, such as for video conferencing, it can be treated differently to when real-time doesn't matter, such as file transfers, which are important but not quite as urgent on the real-time nature of it. And then as part of an SD-WAN deployment, a branch office can get internet access, but also use all the same security policies that are available on the rest of the network. Regarding security, also built into an SD-WAN router is the ability to drop traffic that could cause harm based on a risk assessment level, which is assigned to different types of traffic flowing across the network. So if an application has a high risk assessment that could potentially introduce viruses or other exploits onto the network, the SD-WAN router will drop it. And then deployment, really easy to deploy. One SD-WAN router or many of them can be deployed really easily with Untangle's zero-touch provisioning. Once an SD-WAN router arrives at a branch office, it gets plugged in, added to the Untangle Command Center, which is our cloud-based management system, and then it can be managed essentially from anywhere. Getting branch office connectivity just couldn't be easier than using Untangle's Command Center to manage the whole system.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather, for answering all of those questions and or addressing all of those myths and walking us through SD-WAN technology and SD-WAN router. We have a few questions that we'll move on to from the audience that we've received, so we'll get started with those. The first one is talking about our appliances. So we saw an image of our appliance in the previous slide, and the question is, what is the range of appliances that are available in the Untangle SD-WAN router series?
Untangle has a good range of SD-WAN routers, from very small, inexpensive devices, which was the ones that we showed in that previous slide. So small, inexpensive devices with 2 WANs and 1 LAN for a smaller office. And they have some more powerful, fully featured devices that have Wi-Fi, fiber, and LTE connectivity as well. Our smaller devices are our E3 appliances that have optional Wi-Fi, and Untangle's larger appliances are our E6 appliances, which have optional Wi-Fi and also optional LTE options too.
Right, and you had mentioned the next question is about deployment. So in your overview of SD-WAN router, you talked about deploying SD-WAN router in the network. So the question is it similar in difficulty to deploying an NG firewall, say?
Yeah, Untangle's SD-WAN routers are designed to be really easy to get up and running. And anyone that's already familiar with our next generation firewalls, it's a very similar process. Once an SD-WAN router arrives at the branch office, even the non-technical staff can plug it into an internet connection, and then using Untangle's command center, zero-touch provisioning has it up and connecting right away. Untangle's command center can manage many Untangle NG firewall appliances and many SD-WAN routers as well. So whether a company has a couple of appliances or hundreds of appliances, they can all be managed from the same place and they can all take advantage of the same zero-touch provisioning.
And our last question that we will take today is about our licensing model. So how does the licensing work with the Untangle SD-WAN routers?
Yeah, so licensing for Untangle's SD-WAN router devices. So our E-Series SD-WAN routers, the licensing is based on throughput. So some remote offices have a lot less throughput available than their headquarter offices. Often a headquarter office will be based in a big city, and the remote or branch offices can be somewhere that's remote and with not necessarily as good an internet connection. For a remote site that has, say, only 20 to 50 megabits per second, they can choose an up to 50 megabits per second license. And then there are licenses in further bands above that. So, for example, up to 100 megabits per second, up to 500. And there's also an unlimited license to choose from.
Great. So I want to thank you, Heather, for talking with me today, dispelling some common myths around SD-WAN technology. I appreciate your time. I also want to say thank you to our audience for joining us. If we didn't answer your question during the webinar today, we will follow up with you after the webinar. For more information, I invite you to visit our website to learn more about Untangle and the Untangle SD-WAN router. And while you're there, check out the live demo of SD-WAN router that's on our site. And our sales team is ready to share more information with you, answer any questions that you have, and set up a personal demo for you if you so choose. So thank you again for joining, and have a wonderful day.